First off, let's look at a couple of key differences between Hiero and Nuke Studio. The first difference is that in Nuke Studio we have a nodal compositing toolset right inside of the application. This means we not only have the timeline application portion, but we also have NukeX running inside the program with access to all of the NukeX toolset. The second key difference is that we have additional soft effects, which are timeline effects, exclusive to Nuke Studio. These are Create Comp and Create Comp Special. This allows us to select footage and create a Nuke script directly in the timeline, which automatically creates a track and a comp container. Now, this is an important feature that we'll need to take an in-depth look into at a later time. Now let's have a look at HieroPlayer. HieroPlayer is a desktop review tool that lets you play back timelines from Hiero and Nuke Studio. You can think of this as an artist-friendly version of a timeline application where the artist can see the sequence that they're working on in context and quickly compare multiple versions of their work before submitting it for review. There's some key differences for HieroPlayer versus Nuke Studio and Hiero. For example, you aren't meant to online or conform inside of HieroPlayer, so that means you won't be able to import an EDL, XML, or AAF, or use the export structure that Nuke Studio and Hiero have. You also won't have the spreadsheet view that the other two applications have. You can open Nuke Studio and Hiero projects. The interface highlight color will be blue, and that indicates that the project is read-only. You can't delete clips or bins or shots and make edits to the timeline when the highlight is blue. You can, however, drag source clips onto new tracks in the timeline. If you modify the project this way, you can save the work by saving it as a player project. For a full detailed comparison between the applications, you can just head over to our website and then go to the Hiero page, Features, and you'll see a detailed list of all the differences between HieroPlayer, Hiero, and Nuke Studio. Now, who would be using these different applications? So first, let's talk about Nuke Studio. In many cases, you see supervisor and department leads using it. VFX supervisors, comp supervisors, 3D supervisors, they can all benefit from Nuke Studio. It's also very helpful if the leads have access to it. The 3D supervisor can be using it to view sequences, to view and compare different versions of the 3D work that's being done. They can mark up the timeline to see the progression or statuses of sequence and shots. They can annotate on the shots and the artist can address these notes. Another nice aspect is that they can be communicating through the timeline with other departments. Slap comps for the lighting department can be procedurally generated for 3D artists to check their work. And many studio lighting artists have access to Nuke where they can go in and tweak the lighting based on these slap comps. On the 2D side of things, a VFX supervisor can be using Nuke Studio to see notes from other departments. They can be leaving notes for the comp supervisor, leads, any general or project notes. They can quickly do any keying in the timeline for producers and directors to better understand the context of sequences. They can also see any new media being brought into the project, maybe new plates, new shots, maybe they're adding it. Compositing supervisors would have Nuke Studio where they can also view notes and statuses from other departments, marking up shots with specific direction for the artists. They can create comps with all the necessary media for the artists. They can view different comp versions and explore the artist's comps directly from the timeline for QA and troubleshooting. Another important thing that all departments using Nuke Studio can do is use the export functionality that's built in to have Nuke Studio distribute media into the pipeline at any stage of production. The people using Nuke Studio usually need access to the node graph, even if it's minimal. Also, depending on the studio structure, sometimes one of the positions mentioned are running the review session. Now this way, any compositing tweaks that can be made during the review session can be done on the fly and automatically updated into the timeline. Now those are some examples, and we can see that Nuke Studio covers a broad area of the pipeline. Now let's talk about Hiero. Hiero is great for VFX editors and project coordinators to bring in media from the editorial department. They can distribute the plates, renders, update the timeline with the new shots and renders. Just like Nuke Studio, they can make sure the timeline is up to date with the newest versions of the edit, the shots, and also distribute media into the pipeline. They can leave annotations and notes and also create Nuke scripts if necessary from an export function. Whomever is running the review session, maybe it's a VFX editor using Hiero, if they run the review session and don't have compositing experience, rather the review session is all about viewing and annotating the shots, in this case Hiero would make sense. Now in some cases, producers and directors also like having access to Hiero as they can view the edit and shots and versions of the artists are working on, and they can make notes and annotations to shots in the timeline. So generally with Hiero, we see people that are not going to need access to compositing, so having access to NukeX wouldn't be necessary. In this case, it makes sense for them to run Hiero. HieroPlayer is suited for artists. We spoke about this earlier, and it becomes a daily tool for artists where they can review their work in context. So whether it's an animator who wants to view all their shots in sequence, a lighter that wants to make sure the continuity is there between their shots, compositors that need to view the edit and how their shots are maintaining continuity within the edit, a key feature that HieroPlayer shares with all the other applications is the ability to quickly switch versions of the shots and review your work before submitting it for approval. So all three applications have their place in the pipeline, and hopefully that gives a better understanding of where they sit. Now let's get into project organization before our review session, and we can do this via tagging, and this can be done throughout the entire project and can be handy for review. So what I'm going to do is just right click over here and open up our tags window, and from here we'll see out of the box we have quite a few tags that we can be using. So some nice ones like apps, we have markers that are quite useful, and a status. And status is especially useful because what you can do is you can have this attached to your asset manager, so it's in line with it, meaning that we can have our finals linked up with our finals in progress, etc. So some very handy things that you can find with the tags. You can even create your own custom ones. So now how tagging works is we can be applying them by right-clicking on the clip, but we can also just be dragging and dropping. Let me turn on my comp layer here for a minute. And I'm going to go ahead and just drag and drop directly onto a clip. So when we add it to a clip, we can select the tag itself, and then from here we have some input fields, so we can be adding notes directly onto the tag itself. We can also be injecting custom metadata directly into the clip. Here we have our key and our value. We can be changing the tag types and then switching through multiple tags and adding different notes. Because these clip containers can have multiple tags, I can add another one in here. We can keep on stacking these tags up. So we can be applying them by dragging and dropping, but we can also be going into the viewer. So if we were to go ahead and select the tag, and we can tag the whole sequence, we can tag a particular frame, and then if I just jump over here, I'll tag another frame. And this is also very helpful for review, because what we can do is we can be isolating key frames, and then from there we can go and hit Alt Shift and then the arrow keys left and right, and we can be jumping through these tags directly into our timeline. We can also be tagging by the track item, which is under our playhead, and we can also tag the clip. Now another powerful thing we can do with tags is filter by the tag type. And this is great if we're prepping for the review session and say some shots are blocked because they're awaiting approval. Well, we can filter these shots. So I'm just going to jump over to my review workspace. So from here I'm going to open up the project tab. Now we can see that we have shots that have multiple tags on them. Well, we can just go in and filter by a particular tag type if we want. And if I jump over to my tags, what I'll do is go under the status, and then I only want to isolate the shots that are awaiting approval. So what I can do is grab the awaiting approval tag and then drop it directly into the search bar into our project window, and then just like that we have all the shots isolated. Now from here we could go in and we can double click, and then we can view these shots individually if we want to view them this way. What we could also do is create a new sequence from them, and then we have them isolated onto a sequence. Now this is a nice way to view them because we can be comparing shots for continuity. I can drag and drop one into the buffer, and then let's grab another one over here and then place it into our B buffer. And now I can do a direct comparison for continuity. If there's multiple versions, I can just hit the V key, and then I'll have access to that new other version that's in there as well. So now toggling versions with the V key, I'm looking at what is in the A buffer this way. If I want to toggle the version of what's going on in the B buffer, all I need to do is activate the info bar and then switch to the B. And then when I hit V now, I'm looking for the versions in the B buffer. Now, not only can we use tags to search inside of our project window, but we can also use this in our spreadsheet. So let's just jump over to the conform layout for a second. Now from here we have access to our spreadsheet very quickly. I'll pull it out just a little bit. And now I want to just filter some shots, and there's where we have a search bar in here that accepts text, but we can also drag tags in there. So I want to go and grab the awaiting approval tag and place it in. And we can even put multiple tags in here. So I also have some shots that are blocked. I'm going to drag it and drop it in there. We have multiple tags now that we're searching for, and then they all show up. The nice thing about this is that we can quickly get to these shots rather than having to navigate through them in the timeline, because that can be difficult if they're spread out. All I need to do is hold down Alt and then select the shot, and then it'll show up directly inside of our viewer. So really a great way to isolate shots by utilizing this filtering of the tags, making sure we're adding notes in those tags, and then using the spreadsheet to navigate through. So tagging becomes a very important part for project organization, injecting custom metadata, and project progression.
All right, now let's talk about version linking. Now, the ability to quickly and easily pull in and review multiple clip versions on a timeline in Nuke Studio and in Hiero has always been one of the most powerful features for managing VFX edits or performing dailies and in client reviews. Now, currently all the clips on a timeline act independently of one another, but now with Nuke 12.1's new version linking feature, you can control the version of a clip across multiple locations on a timeline, or even across multiple edits from either the project bin or the timeline itself. From the bin, you can either link all or unlink all shot versions. When linking all, every corresponding shot on the timeline matches the version selected in the bin, and when unlinking all, you now have the freedom to set each clip's version independently. From the timeline, you can link clips directly from a track item and can either link the shot using the bin item version so that the track item matches the version in the bin, or link the shot using the track item version so that the bin item now matches the version of the clip in the timeline. When multiple instances of a clip exist on a sequence in different linked states, a mixed icon will appear on the bin item to help indicate that these shot instances are set to different versions. Linked and unlinked icons also appear on the clips and in the spreadsheet to help you know what's linked at a glance. And there's new preferences that let you decide what linked behavior you would like when you're importing new footage. This is fantastic because when reviewing your work, you can keep the versions unlinked while you're comparing and giving feedback. And once a final version is approved, you can then enable version linking to ensure that all other instances of the clip match that version. And when you're swapping between multiple edits, you can enable version linking to help you maintain continuity and be confident that you're always viewing the right shot. So that's all for now. I hope you enjoyed the video, and thank you for watching.